All right, we are back with you live once again on another Johnnie Torch program. Not quite live, I'm recording this one. And I apologize for not having too many videos out, but it's just been a hectic month. The Christmas season always does that to us at the Torch family residence. So I don't have a whole lot of time, but I did want to weigh in on my thoughts on the Superman trailer. This is going to be a no-frills show. We're just going to try to get over some of the salient points of the trailer. I got a bunch of images here that we'll take a look at, and we'll try to get to the bottom of this trailer. And I kind of provocatively named this video the review with is this a new beginning for Superman, or is this more of the same? Because while I've been the most enthusiastic cheerleader for this movie, probably more so than many of my peers, I do feel like we're kind of slipping into the same tropes that we've gotten from Superman from the last, I don't know, 20 odd years. We start the trailer with him being battered and bloodied, and I don't object to this as much as I feel like this is sort of kind of trying to appease the people that think Superman is overpowered. I don't think anyone who's a true Superman fan believes that he's overpowered and doesn't relate to people or whatever. This kind of feels like they're trying too hard to get that foot in the door before anything else. Um, I think he looks great. The costume looks great. I know that's a source of consternation to some. I think the costume looks great. Um, Again, one of the problems I have is we don't really get to see Superman start off this trailer heroically. And one of my complaints is that we always get the doom and gloom. We get the grim. We get, oh boy, what a drag it is to be Superman. I really wanted to see, starting off this trailer, Superman, as we've been promised, with hope, with optimism, with a sense of wonder and splendor and how great it is to be Superman, that you can do these things. But we've kind of gotten back to the beginning again of where we left off with Man of Steel, with Superman Returns, to an extent with Superman and Lois. It's always a focus on the frailties of Superman. We don't really get a chance to see the grandeur of Superman first. Now, I said on Twitter, I think this would have been great as a second trailer. This is a teaser trailer. All they really needed to do was sell us on Superman's back. He looks great. Look up in the sky. But then we launch immediately right back into this kind of, well, Superman's got his butt kicked, and now he's, contemplating his life's choices. And it just kind of, it got off on the wrong foot to me personally. And again, this is not saying anything negative about the film proper. None of us have seen the film proper. This could not be indicative of the tone overall, but I kind of feel like we're going back to that tone, but with a flashy, more colorful exterior. So we get Superman battered and bloodied, and let's see, we get, which was, I think, a good idea. We get Crypto, who I was excited to see in the poster or whatever that promo image was. Let's see, there's a couple of images of Crypto. He comes to the rescue. I think this is cute. A lot has been made of Crypto. He doesn't look like Crypto in the comics. Crypto is supposed to be more of a Labrador. I'm not really sure what breed this looks like. Obviously, it's mostly CGI, I think. But, I'm okay with it. You can't relentlessly nitpick these things, I mean, you're not going to get 100% perfection 100% of the time. The fact that they got close enough to a Superman costume that has color is a good sign. That they even have Crypto in it at all is a good sign that they're trying to adhere to the comics. So I don't really want to be too tough on them on these things. I mean, as a purist, I don't like the race change for Perry White. I mean, but is that going to keep me from seeing the movie? No. But as a purist, you have these nitpicks, I understand, but that's not going to sink the movie. I think Crypto looks cute, and we all know James Gunn. He's got an affinity for our furry little creatures, Rocket. He made us fall in love with Rocket, and Groot, and I imagine Crypto's going to fill the same space in this film as sort of the lovable, kind of scruffy around the edges protagonist who's going to help our main protagonist survive. And I thought that was nice. I liked it. Again, I don't have a problem with Superman needing to be saved by Crypto. My problem was more, I don't know that you start the trailer this way. I don't know that you start bringing back Superman from what was a grim and gritty version to what was meant to be a hopeful and optimistic version. And that's what I was hoping for with this. All right, again, these are not going to be completely in order. I'm not sure exactly how these will be presented. We have, this was interesting. Superman in Smallville with Pa Kent. Now, of course, people have made, light of the fact that this Pa Kent doesn't look really like we expect Pa Kent to look as he's looked in the comics or any of the other kinds of live action media we've had in the past. Honestly, he does not look like Pa Kent. Again, I'm not going to base my whole enjoyment of the movie on some of these choices, but he doesn't really look like Pa Kent. And the excuse made that I've heard a lot is, well, Pa Kent is a farmer, and this is what your typical Midwestern farmer looks like. Honestly, I think John Snyder looks more like a Midwestern farmer. I think, what was the name of the actor in the Superman movie? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now. One of the great actors, Glenn Ford. He looked like a farmer to me. He looked like he could pick up a bale of hay. This guy doesn't look like he could pick up a trash can. So, I mean, you want to be picky-ony and stuff like that. I can understand. But what's really at stake here is the emotional content. Some people have theorized that maybe this is the death of Ma Kent. We did see in the listings at the time that she was cast. There was an actress cast as Ma Kent. This, of course, would be just flipping, because what usually happens is Pa Kent dies, Ma Kent survives a little longer, and then she passes on. But I really hope they don't do that, because so much of cinema nowadays, when they take on these classic stories, is we have to change something. We didn't get Uncle Ben's death, and the new Spider-Man with the MCU. We got Aunt May's death. We have to have a young, hot Aunt May. We had to have a youngerish Ma Kent in the last Superman series. And it's like, don't mess around with the formula. There's certain things you can play with. There's a lot of things you can kind of update a little bit, but you can't really mess with the formula of either Ma and Pa Kent have to die, or if they survive, they should both be alive. And so that's my only concern about this. And I don't know if this is meant to be a flashback scene either. This might be something that happened. And some people said maybe this whole film is going to be presented in flashback. It's possible because, while he's recuperating from whatever terrible injuries he's getting here. This is a scene of Superman doing something heroic. So admittedly, they didn't bury the lead. Superman saving a child from what appears to be another gargantuan monster. And originally I was reluctant at this image because I think Superman would just grab the child and whisk her away instead of letting all the shrapnel hit him and this and that. But then I stopped and thought, to be honest with you, him grabbing the child and whisking her away is a flash move. And when you've got Superman, you've got to display his strength. You don't display his speed as much as his strength. So Superman grabs the child and protects her, and that makes the most sense. So I get that, and I'm not going to criticize that too heavily. But again, the idea of showing Superman do something heroic, because obviously we already had Man of Steel, where it was just a lot of carnage and a lot of people getting hurt. Stop, don't do it, the people. All right, this is the monster apparently from that scene. I don't know if this is what causes Superman to get so beat up, but it's a fire-breathing monster in the middle of Metropolis, which I like. I always said, what did I always say? If you look back in any of my old videos, I've always said, give me Superman fighting a big robot or a big monster in Metropolis, and I'll be happy. We finally got that. Now, personally, I would have preferred a robot, because I would like that Fleischer Studios type thing with the, you know, big giant robot or something. But they even did the giant dinosaur and stuff like that too. So I'm happy. I'm glad they've done this. This also checks one of my boxes on what I want to see in a Superman movie. We've never really seen this in a Superman movie, and it needed to happen a long time ago, actually. This is kind of par for the course for Gunn. I think he likes these big creature, you know, beasties, and the design is okay. I mean, you know, it's fine. Let's see. We also have another interesting character here. Now, I guess this is from the comics. I guess this is Keelix, which is his robotic servant in the Fortress of Solitude. And, you know, apparently he's distraught over what appears to be the death, quote unquote, the death of Keelix. So, yeah, that's pretty sad. I like the design of the Fortress of Solitude being the crystal fortress. It would probably be very tempting for them to change that because they did go back to that for um, the Superman Returns, and I have a feeling if they were going to change anything, it might be that. But thankfully, they didn't, and it looks great. Let's see, what else can we go to here? This is another thing. This was kind of interesting here. This is like, it looks like Superman is mourning someone's death, but I don't think it's Keelix the robot or whoever that was. They're in Stag Industries, which means that doing a little research, I got to give credit to whoever picked this out on the internet, and I don't know who it was, but somebody said Stag Industries is the company that is owned by the enemy of Metamorpho. So I think essentially what we're going to get here is the origin story of Metamorpho. I don't think it's going to focus too heavily on Metamorpho. I think all the side characters here are going to be side characters. I didn't bother taking images of Mr. Terrific and Hawkgirl. You've pretty much seen them. But I think something bad happens to Metamorpho here, prompting his transformation. And he becomes the Metamorpho that we all know and love. And I think Superman is feeling the grief here that perhaps he could have prevented it. Or, you know, not even that maybe he could have prevented it, but that he wished that he would have been in a situation where he could have prevented it. You know, it's kind of the Superman thing to beat himself up on, that he can't be everywhere all the time for his friends. And we were already told, I think, that Gunn said that he's going to get along with a lot of superheroes. He's not going to get along with a lot of superheroes. And I'm guessing that Metamorpho is one of his friends. This is apparently Metamorpho, the way he's going to look in the film. You can kind of see the purple on the right side, the orange on the, well, our right, his left. And that's kind of the way Metamorpho looks in the comics. It's a pretty accurate look for him. A lot of people were trying to say maybe this is a different character, but I'm pretty sure that's Metamorpho. And he looks good. He looks really great. I think that's a very interesting character to put into this. I think, again, you have to look at it through the lens of James Gunn. His sensibilities are the broken and damaged people. And that's what's good about him taking on this movie, is because he's not really taking Superman down a path that we probably would not normally see him go. He's reacting to somebody else's plight. And instead of like trying to force some kind of plight on him. Let's see. We also have this scene, which is kind of interesting, where the public is apparently turned on Superman. Somebody doinks a can of Campbell's soup off his head. And again, I feel like this is not the way to go for a first movie. I think that's kind of something you maybe do in a second movie. You know, like Superman 2, when you had, you know, the people sort of turned on Superman. Oh, he's a phony and he ran away and from Zod and this and that. You kind of have to have everybody trust Superman first. Now, this is not like, this is supposedly not a year one Superman where he's kind of new and fresh on the scene. But at the same time, you have to build it up in the audience's mind that he's been doing this for a while and that he's actually a champion to the people, and not that you start off the film where he's kind of on shaky ground with the populace. You know, it's it's kind of a shaky ground to start the film on. But again, he looks great, and he reacts normally. Some people making fun of the fact that he sort of feels the can bounce off his head, but again, the fact is not that Superman is completely, numb from the neck up. The point is that he sort of just reacts with, you know, disappointment that the people are treating him this way, which is kind of, and again, there's the Christ metaphor that everybody and their brother now loathes. It was sort of like it was hidden in between the lines in the Donner films. But then I think when Singer did it way too much on the nose, and then when uh, Snyder did it was not on the nose, but it was again sort of out there so that people could see it. And I think when you kind of layer it back, it makes people more comfortable with seeing that, yeah, he's doing sort of a Christ metaphor that the people are going to turn on him and this and that. But you don't really want to start with that. That's my only concern here. Let's see. Before we get to some of the individual characters, let me just show one or two more things here. This was probably my favorite part of the trailer. I mean, it got me the most interested. What the heck is going on in this scene? Superman's like in a glass case, and there are people with like big, heavy floodlights or something on the side of him, and they look like they're watching him, or I don't know what's going on, but it's a very interesting situation to see him in, and he very angrily breaks his way out of the case. Again, this is probably something to do with Lex Luthor setting a trap or something, but it's kind of the best action scene in the trailer. We also have, again, I didn't get all the images up, but we also have the little boy calling for Superman, and Superman hears him, and he like rushes to the border of some kind of war-torn country. So again, they're kind of going back to that again. I really don't want them to travel too far outside the United States. We really should establish Superman as like the American ambassador before we start showing those kind of things. Again, maybe this will be handled properly in the film. I don't know. I couldn't tell you until we see the film. But I don't know. I don't really want to sound like I'm being too down on this because, of course, I like I said, I've been a big proponent of this film. Next, this is another. This has been a subject on Twitter for quite a while now, since the trailer came out a day or so ago. But Nathan Fillion is Guy Gardner. Now, Guy Gardner, of course, in the comics, has ridiculous-looking hairdo, and Nathan Fillion has the same ridiculous-looking hairdo in this film. Actually, I think he's supposed to have the sides shaved, or sort of like a Mo Howard hairdo, where it's like shorter on the sides. This looks more of like a helmet of hair. But again, it's supposed to look ridiculous, and people are kind of like lampooning this look. But I mean, that's basically the way he's supposed to look. Other people are bemoaning the fact that Nathan Fillion should have been Hal Jordan. That time has passed. I'm kind of ready to let that go. I mean, unfortunately, it didn't happen, and they've got another Hal Jordan. I'm not really going to bemoan that any longer. I think he'll do good because essentially he's a comedian, Nathan Fillion. He can do this kind of role much better than he probably could do a Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan is really not a laugh a minute. And, Gunn has put him into, I think, all of his comic book films in some fashion or other. And of course, people complain about the costume or the hair, but he's a third tier Lantern, really, and he's going to be made the butt of jokes. This is the source of humor in the film, I think, because, Gunn likes that goofy humor, and he's going to make him act like a real dirtbag. And that's where the humor is going to come from. So, I mean, you're supposed to kind of laugh at him. He's the jerk that nobody could stand, and basically Batman has to knock him out after a while when he gets on everybody's nerves. That's who Guy Gardner always was in the comics, and I think they did, yeoman service here. We see him with the ring. It looks like he's trying to keep the population out of this building where Superman is like mourning over whatever he's mourning over. We don't really know, in the Stag Industries building. Possibly Metamorpho, as I said. Let's see here. Going back to the characters again, let's take a look at Lex Luthor, Lex Luthor 007. This is, again, another interesting still, because this looks like it matches up with the scene where he's in the glass case and he's breaking out of the glass case. And I don't have the image here, but we get the image of Superman flying past Luthor Corp and him just turning around in a rage, which is probably after the scene because he's got the scars on his head from probably the broken glass of him breaking out of this cage. And I don't know what is he going to try to shoot Superman here? Does he not know that Superman's bulletproof? Does he think that a kryptonite gun? Does he think that's going to work? I mean, we don't really know what's going to happen there, but he looks great as Lex Luthor. I think he's going to be a great Luthor. You could tell the intensity in his eyes that he hates Superman. And, I think they're not going to do the childhood friend version like Michael Rosenbaum, which is okay. I think most of us really, I don't know. I think when you boil it down, most of the comics never really dealt with the childhood aspect, because I know that goes back to the Silver Age where you had Superboy and Lex Luthor, and Superboy caused Luthor's baldness, and I don't really know that that's something that most people harken back to when they're thinking about the rivalry. But again, Luthor needs to have a legitimate reason to hate Superman, and I kind of hope they're not going to do the thing they always do, which is, well, he's just arrogant and he's jealous that Superman is an alien that's got the powers and has got the adulation, and he wishes that that was him and it's taking the spotlight off of him, so he's got to get rid of him. Sort of like, that's kind of like J. Jonah Jameson's thing, where he's like jealous and the good guys don't wear a mask and he's doing all the things that I can't do and it should be me. That's like a J. Jonah Jameson thing to me. I don't like that with Luthor. Luthor should be trying to get rich and powerful, and Superman stands in his way because Superman is, truth and justice, the American way. He's not going to let him walk over people. Another thing is, people are upset about Luthor Corps. I don't know. I don't remember in the comics, was it always Lex Corps? Because it makes sense, honestly, to be Luthor Corps. Because, I mean, is it like Bruce Corps or the Bruce Foundation? No, it's the Wayne Foundation. You know what I mean? You usually don't use your first name on a thing like this. So I always figured Luthor Corps kind of made sense. The Norman, the Norman Corps. No, it's like, it's the Osborne Corps, or Oscorps or something like that. I just think it makes sense, honestly. But again, a lot of people nitpick that to death. Like, it should be LexCorp. Okay. I mean, I really, it doesn't matter to me either way. But again, this looks cool. All right. Next up, let's see. We've got Lois Lane here. Lois Lane, played by Rachel Brosnan, and I think she looks great. The thing about her is she looks like she stepped right off the pages of the comic. She's got to be the most physically accurate looking Lois Lane we've ever had. And, she looks like she could have come from Superman, the animated series. And I like it when we can finally have that visceral reaction to an actress playing a character that it just looks like her. Because I always said, I thought Amy Adams did a good job in Man of Steel, but a lot of people couldn't get past the fact that she didn't really look like Lois. But I think here it really helps that she actually looks like Lois. And you can tell on her face, she's got kind of the sneer, and she's got that kind of condescending, like cocky attitude. I really hope they don't play that up too much. I always said I don't like the overly cocky Lois Lane. She's supposed to be cocky when it comes to like putting her life in danger and, the death-defying things she'll do to get a story. But I mean, I don't really need her to be calling Clark Smallville every 5 minutes. I don't need her to act like, she kind of is contemptuous towards him and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I don't like when they do that with Lois Lane. But it looks to me like they've got kind of their finger on the pulse of the Lois Lane character. And I think she's going to be the most attractive Lois Lane actress that we've had, if I may say. Clark Kent, a lot of people are making light of this as well, which is the hairstyle they decided to give Clark Kent. Kind of Clark Kent by way of Patrick Mahomes. I don't know. I mean, you can look at it two ways. I mean, you can either say, yeah, it's ridiculous, or you could say, well, people aren't going to think of him as Superman if he's got the ridiculous hairdo. It's another one of those things. I can't really make hay with this. You know what I mean? I can't really bash the film on a stupid little, a stupid little change that, quite honestly, they might be able to change this in the sequels. I mean, there's nothing saying that Clark can't fix his hair by the end of the picture if Lois tells him change your hairstyle or something. It really doesn't bother me. I don't really like it, but it doesn't bother me. And it looks like a return to the clumsy Clark Kent, which I like, which is the uh, traditional Christopher Reeve version of Clark Kent, where he's clumsy, he's dropping things, he looks like he can't get to work on time, which of course he probably could if he really wanted to. And it looks like they're taking that from the Reeve films, which is good. They didn't have that at all. See, that's my big problem when they do Clark Kent is they always like to do the mild mannered thing, where it's like, I think in Lois and Clark, the Dean Cain version was kind of like that. I never watched that show that much, so I can't really be sure. And of course, the Henry Cavill version was kind of like that, just mild mannered. He's not clumsy, but you really are trying to sell the bit. You're trying to sell that Clark is trying to throw everyone off, that he's not Superman. He has to act as completely opposite of Superman as he can. So just doing like mild mannered things doesn't sell it. He's got to be clumsy and have that. No, I think in a sense, like Superman Returns, I think that version was like maybe pushing it a little too much, and you don't want to have him like, I mean, even Reeve sort of modified it as the films went on. He's like, you're going to see him stumble going through a door the first time, but after a while, he doesn't stumble going through the door. You just already have that in your mind, and then when the time comes, you kind of already accept that he's a different person. So that's a good thing. We don't see too much more of the rest of the cast. We get some brief glimpses of some romance with Superman and Lois Lane. This is the one that bothered me, though. This is, again, my thing has always been that Superman and Lois Lane should be in love, not Lois Lane and Clark Kent. I don't think Lois should know Superman as Clark Kent, and certainly not in the first film. I mean, if you have to do that where she finds out he's Superman, you got to do it in a sequel. The way Sam Raimi did Spider-Man, and Mary Jane doesn't know, and then Spider-Man 2, she finds out at the very end, and then she knows he's Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3. You don't really start the whole thing with her finding out he's Superman in the first movie, because you don't have anywhere to build with that. At least in this day and age, nobody wants to take the secret identity seriously. The secret identity has been so trod upon in recent years that next to nobody has them anymore. Even in the Superman and Lois show, Superman essentially came out to the whole world. Everybody knows he's Superman now, and he's got a super family that had to deal with, life in the spotlight. I don't like that idea, especially for Superman. Superman is supposed to be a character of self-sacrifice, and they do focus on that a lot of times. But the self-sacrifice is supposed to be that he can't settle down and he can't be there for a spouse, his loved one, and that is kind of what the essence of Superman is about. That's what Superman 2 is all about. And if you want to go back to basics and you want to say, okay, we're taking the style of the Donner films, his version of Superman 2, that's kind of what's supposed to happen. It's not supposed to be that she's going to be in love with Clark and that Superman is sort of just a public persona. We get another image here. That's them again, and this could be like a dream sequence or a hallucination or whatever. I don't know. But we get another image here of Superman and Lois kissing while they're flying, which again, I like the romance of Superman and Lois. This is the kind of stuff I want to see, which is more like the Donner version, with the flying and can you read my mind and all that. This seems more in line with that. And it's always Superman and Lois. That's what it should be. They complement each other. When you have it as Lois and Clark, and Lois is supposed to pretend that she's not in love with Superman because she's really in love with Clark, I mean, that's boring. That I don't understand why people seem to like that version of it. Lois was always associated romantically with Superman in the public eye, and then eventually that stops and she's in love with Clark Kent and she marries Clark Kent. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a very tough sell, if you ask me, to try to have it both ways. Nobody knows he's Superman, in most of these versions. So she really can't get chummy with him in public. And it really kills a lot of that vibe like we get here. All right, and I got one more image here before we wrap it up. We've spent like a half hour. Uh, this is what we saw in the original image. This is apparently the big threat. It's some kind of, I don't know if it's a pink and green ray. Is that supposed to be maybe some kind of machine? Is that some kind of robot? I don't know, but is a terrible danger, and Lois is going to whisk him off to save the day. And again, I really like what this looks like. I just don't know that. Again, they're going to focus on the things that we were kind of hoping that they were going to focus on: the optimism, the hope, the fact that Superman is a wish fulfillment character, that it's not so much the doom and gloom. Of course, you've got to have some gravitas, and everybody and their brother knows how to bring that gravitas in. Superman can't save everybody. He has to sacrifice his personal happiness in order to serve humanity. There's so many ways you can touch into that, core of Superman's essence. I don't know if they're going to do that. They didn't really make me feel too confident that they will. Do I like the trailer, though? I like it. I think it was probably the wrong way to first get your foot off the ground with this movie. But again, it depends what tone this movie takes. I'm a big believer that trailers usually tell you what the movie is, and they don't really ever fool you. I mean, I'm not talking about like Avengers where they put the Hulk in running in the background and then they took him out in the movie or something like that. I'm talking about the tone. Like, for instance, The Force Awakens. They put everything out in that first trailer, and there was nothing really new once you went to the movie. You kind of knew that's what it was going to be. There was no Luke Skywalker. You know, it kind of just gave you what the film was. And I kind of feel like that's the way it is with all trailers, that this is probably going to be what we get. It's probably going to be a despairing Superman that is going through struggles and going through personal loss, and probably is going to tell Lois that he's Superman in order to have some kind of moral victory, I guess. But he's still going to suffer in the public eye and with people and creatures kicking his butt. And again, I want to go back to the Christopher Reeve Superman. I want to see Superman be hopeful and optimistic. This Superman trailer did not have Superman smile once. It did not have him wave warmly. It did not have him, and again, this is a teaser. I understand that. But that is the way that I would have got us off the ground. I would have tried to reassure the public that, once again, Superman's bright, he's colorful, he's a hero to the kids, he smiles at the kids, he waves at the families, and he flies off and gets a cat out of a tree, which is something that for the last 30 years at least seems like a no-no for, the fans, quote unquote. But I think we needed to have steps in that direction first to see that that was going to happen. And then we start bringing out the more heavy and somber themes of, the struggle of a superhero. So that's my take on this. And again, this is a review, so I'll give a rating. I'm probably going to give this a out of 5. I'll give it a 3, I guess. It's good. Again, stylistically, I love the actors. I love the color. People complain about the suit and the this and the that. I think everything looks fine. Crypto looks fine. Everything looks fine. Guy Gardner looks fine. But again, I probably would have started off on another foot of trying to make this seem a little more hopeful, optimistic, and happy. And then, of course, the second trailer is typically the story trailer, where you start getting hints of what the story is about. And of course, you then build into those thematic moments of Superman's down, he's beaten, he needs a four-legged friend to help him. That's kind of where you should go from there. But I think the first trailer, I think they kind of miscalculated that a little bit. All right, so let me know what you think in the comments below. I probably will not be getting, so this is very close to Christmas, I'm probably not getting another video off, so a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. Thank you so much for joining me and watching the channel. If you haven't already, hit like, share, and subscribe, and I will endeavor to be with you again as soon as possible, even if it is in Next We Meet 2025. So until next we meet, this is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, Keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.